All right, welcome, APUSH students. This is your final chapter, chapter 31. It's been a good long year, productive year. You guys have learned a lot. I'm excited to see how you guys do on the exam. So let's get after it. Okay, so America and the global economy. A couple things that you need to know. A couple terms. Globalization, which is interdependence, connection between countries and businesses. Basically, this means that we're all together, that you're not really going it alone anymore. Everybody's connected in this globalized world. So, even though China may be sort of a frenemy of ours, if China falls, then that has an effect on us, so there's all these connections. You also need to know the World Trade Organization, the WTO, which is basically this global agency that regulates trade between nations. Also, during this time period, we're talking post-Reagan, so 90s into the 2000s, we see the rise of the European Union and China. European Union is going to basically get together and kind of mimic a sort of a United States. They are more powerful together than as 40 separate European countries. They realize this, and that if they're going to compete with America and a rising China on the global market, then they're going to have to band together. And so they do that. They develop a common currency, the euro, that can be used in all of their countries, which makes trading a lot easier in Europe. Well, it did work. I'll go back here. Okay. American global economy, era of globalization, international organizations and corporations. Again, everything's connected. Huge businesses are running the world, essentially. You get the G8, this group of 8 countries that control most financial organizations, such as the International Monetary Fund. You're talking countries like America, Canada, Great Britain, France, Italy, Germany, China, of course, and Japan. It's also in this time period that you get one of Clinton's ideas, which is NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. The idea between this is that there would be no tariffs on goods traded between the United States, Canada, and Mexico. This is to help offset the gains of the European Union. America says, well, we can make an alliance of our own over here, an economic alliance. And it can be argued on the success of NAFTA. This is also a time period of great revolutions in technology. Growth of the personal computer is enormous, and of course, the World Wide Web, the internet. Both of these things come out in the 1990s. Both of them were initially military projects. Computers were initially for the military, and the internet was also initially for the military. It was soon taken over by scientists who adopted it for their purposes, and then it made its way to kind of the consumer world, which gives rise to e-commerce, e-trading, Amazon, eBay. You can buy so much on the internet now. Makes trading easier than ever. Politics in this time period and to current day is very partisan. Democrats stay with Democrats and Republicans stay with Republicans. Can make getting things done a challenge. However, as a society, America is increasingly plural, meaning that we are made up, we're a bigger melting pot than ever before. We're made up of different groups. Women have a bigger voice. There are more Hispanics. There are more everybody. And so the majority white male, that ownership is coming to an end. By 2040, 2050, somewhere in that time period, the United States will become a majority minority nation, meaning that the majority of our population will be made up of different groups of minorities: African Americans, Hispanics, Asians. Put them all together, and they will actually outnumber the formerly majority white people. 28 million new immigrants coming between 1970 and the year 2000. You were going to see the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, where it's eliminating the quota system from the 20s. So we're going to get a lot of people, a lot of people coming, and that will have some issues with it as well. Politics in this time period continued. Multiculturalism and its critics. There are people who are not enamored with the idea of America being such a plural society. But the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986, that would be passed during Reagan's administration, granted citizenship to many illegal immigrants that arrived prior to the year 1982, and made it illegal for companies to knowingly hire illegal immigrants. So on one hand, it grants citizenship to illegals who are already here, but makes it illegal to knowingly hire them. Again, all this part of multiculturalism. There are clashes over family values. The new right that came in with Ronald Reagan hasn't gone anywhere. They're focusing on marriage between a man and a woman. They're going to have an anti-gay stance. They're also anti-abortion, of course. They're pro-choice. Pro-life, not pro-choice, pro-life. Major distinction between the Democrats and Republicans. It is really the term of abortion. Democrats tend to be pro-choice, meaning that the mother has the choice, and Republicans tend to be pro-life, saying that the unborn baby's rights trump those of the mother. All right. Well, what happened here? Okay. All right. Gay rights. You get the Defense of Marriage Act, which allowed states to not recognize same-sex marriage, which is later overturned by the Supreme Court. What you're seeing here is states trying to defend against having to allow homosexuals to legally marry, but you see the federal government coming in over the top and kind of forcing the issue. So you get sort of a culture wars in the Supreme Court here. Webster versus Reproductive Health Services in 1989 says that states could limit funds for abortion. Obviously, this is a method to try and stamp out abortion. Planned Parenthood, which is in the news a lot these days, they also have their court case. But obviously an issue that hasn't gone anywhere. All right, let's talk about the Clinton presidency. Two-term president, governor of Arkansas. He's a Democrat, but he's pretty centrist, meaning he's more of a moderate. Political parties in this time period have become the most polarized. They've really been. Growth of cable news began in the 1990s. As you'll see today, some of those news services are liberal, and some of them have turned conservative rather than being neutral and doing their job of just giving us the truth. Big election after Clinton. With Clinton. Clinton defeats in 1992 Bush and a man named Ross Perot, who was a Texas billionaire. Perot steals a lot of Republican votes from Bush. Clinton only wins 43% of the popular vote, but he's going to win the presidency because Perot garners more third-party votes than any candidate since Teddy Roosevelt. So he did a lot of damage to George Bush's attempt to win a second term. All right, Clinton pushes through his idea of being a new Democrat. He is trying to get that mythical unicorn, universal health care, something we've been talking about for a long time, going all the way back to LBJ. Nobody's quite managed to get it, and Clinton won't either, but he does manage to balance the budget, which helps the economy because it drives down interest rates. We still have a federal debt, but the budget is balanced, and again, that's going to help the economy. And as Clinton famously said, it's the economy, stupid. That's what gets a president elected and reelected. Now, Republicans are going to, even though Clinton is fairly centrist, Republicans still want, some of them are still against him. The ultra conservatives are still against him because of his stance on abortion, I'm sure, and gay rights. So find out about an affair between him and his intern, Monica Lewinsky, and he tries to cover this up. And so they put him on trial for perjury, for lying, and obstruction of justice. And as you can see there, and I remember this because I was in high school when it happened, most Americans do not favor impeachment on these grounds of I think a lot of Americans, while maybe they don't agree with it, have come to accept that there are going to be extramarital affairs amongst people in power, whether that's a president or an athlete, a rock star, or whatever it may be. So when they see an impeachment of a president, they're typically looking for, where public trust has been broken, where money has been stolen from the taxpayers, things like that. And that's not what's happening here. Here was a moral issue that many people felt like was between Bill Clinton and his wife, Hillary. So because of this, the Republicans weren't going to get much support on impeachment, and it fell quite a few votes short of actually getting rid of Bill Clinton. All right. Post-Cold War foreign policy, what do we do now that the Cold War's over? What's our focus? Well, okay. It actually goes into domestics here. So let's talk about domestics. Clashes over family values. The new right focuses. Oh, I see what happened. Okay. This is a very odd PowerPoint. I don't know what's going on here. Okay. Okay. We'll just leave it like this. It'll be easier. All right. During Clinton's presidency, you see the breakup of Yugoslavia, which has all these different ethnic groups, including Muslim groups and stuff. And it's kind of the hotbed of action in the world. You get a dictator guy, Slobodan Milosevic, and I remember this guy being on the news a lot, who commits genocide or ethnic cleansing against groups he doesn't like. So Clinton is going to get NATO to okay a bombing campaign against Milosevic. And out of removing him from power, you're going to get 7 new countries that used to be the former Yugoslavia. America and the Middle East. George W. Bush, after Clinton's 2 terms, George W. Bush is going to win a very tight election in 2000. It's the first election I ever voted in. George W. Bush against Al Gore. Gore won the popular vote by a slim margin, but Bush narrowly won the electoral vote. But there was some oddities in Florida, and so the Democrats asked for a recount there in Florida. And after a month of trying to get this mess settled, the Supreme Court basically stepped in and awarded. They had a commission, sort of like 1876, and just like 1876, everybody voted along party lines. Republicans voted for Bush, and Democrats voted for Gore, and result was Bush becoming president. He's promising tax cuts. Republicans tend to do that. He's trying to get economic growth. He's trying to get tax relief as a way of leading to that economic growth. Not long into his presidency, a major tragedy occurs on September 11th when the Muslim terrorists hijacked 4 enormous planes. 2 of those were crashed into the World Trade Center, very famously, of course, kills about 3,000 people and brings down those 2 very large buildings that housed about 50,000 people in them. One of the planes was crashed into the Pentagon. Minimal human life there. I think just a couple of people died, although there was quite a bit of property damage. And then the last plane actually crashed in a field in Pennsylvania. I think it was on its way to the White House. The people there on the plane fought back. They had already heard about what was going on with the other planes, and they decided if they were going down, they weren't going to let these terrorists get what they wanted. And so they very bravely fought against the terrorists and foiled their plan. In response to that, of course, the United States is going to invade Afghanistan. for hiding bin Laden, the mastermind, Osama bin Laden, the mastermind behind these attacks. Not everybody was happy with that, including Canada and Mexico, who went against us, and it damaged relationships with France, who was very vocally against us. Really, Britain that was firmly on our side in that one when we invaded there and in Iraq. With Iraq was unfinished business. We're going to go in there and try to clean up that mess with Saddam Hussein. Bush now has declared a war on terrorism, and he says to be able to combat this, the government's going to need new powers, and the Patriot Act gets passed, which increased the government's power to monitor Americans, such as reading emails and things of that nature. Very controversial. And like it says there, this is always going to happen. Breaches on civil liberties are going to happen during times of war. And the war on terrorism doesn't have as big of a face as other wars as we had. There are these scattered cells throughout the world. And so I think, it would not have been possible to pass this except for 9/11. People were so fired up and so patriotic that they allow this to basically pass for the most part. Again, the United States ends up invading Iraq in 2003 without a UN resolution to do so. So unlike before, it's not a United Nations-backed event. America doesn't care. They're going in anyway. Second term for George Bush. He is up against Kerry. And Kerry was a former Vietnam vet who had been decorated twice, but after leaving Vietnam, he was very vocally against the war, and so his opponents attacked him as a flip-flopper for his positions on the Iraq war, and that's going to basically doom him. So Bush will win a second term. And also during this time period, 11 states are going to pass bans on same-sex marriage, although it seems that is beginning to be reversed. All right. Obama becomes the first African-American president. His idea of remaking America, he focuses on an economic stimulus package, trying to, when Obama comes in, it's the worst recession at the end of Bush's term, 2008, the housing bubble burst, and it led us into this very bad recession, the Great Recession, which was the worst since the Great Depression. And so Obama's trying to fix that. So he focuses on economic stimulus package. What will always be associated with Obama is Obamacare, his health care package, and Wall Street regulation during his early presidency there. His American Recovery and Reinvestment Act leads to $787 billion to states for projects to fix up things. During his presidency, you get an ultra-conservative you get kind of a minor split in the Republican Party. Remember, Obama's Democrat. The Tea Party, as they're called, taxed enough already is what that stands for. They're a party that doesn't want taxes to go to these reinvestment acts that are going to the states. They're taxed enough. Continuing war and instability in the Middle East during Obama's administration. You get the Arab Spring that happened not too long ago. Protests that led to the downfall of several regimes in the Middle East, such as Egypt. And then, of course, May of 2011, SEAL Team 6 finally catches up to bin Laden after 10 years of evading justice. They take care of business there. Climate change has been a big talking point, although that is controversial as well. And guys, really, that's it. Those are your main ideas right there. Make sure that you have pulled those out to the left in your Cornell notes, that you understand what these things are right here. And as it says here, I will not see you back for another chapter. Congratulations. And this one right here, I would reiterate to you, and I will in class, you are more than a test score. You will always be more than a test score. I certainly hope that each and every one of you pass the AP exam. It doesn't mean anything to me. What has been great with you guys is watching you grow and develop as students, and I know that this class will serve you very well not only in college, but in your life as an American citizen. I thank you for all your hard work and attention to detail this year, and I'm proud of you guys. Thank you.